Hello friends, welcome back to Divine Dimensions with Darian. Today we have some special guests. We are at my school and we have Ryan here, my friend that I was originally planning on making a video with today, and I wanted to bring him over to this spot in the garden. And then he was sitting here and I asked if he would like to join us. So we're making friends, meeting friends, having a friendly conversation today.
What's your name again?
Jalen.
Jalen.
God.
Yes.
I said Jalen, right?
Sorry.
Did I? Or did I not even say it?
I don't think so, but
Ryan
that's okay.
and Jalen here, and today we're going to be talking about whatever comes to mind, really.
Yeah. I think earlier we were just talking about low socioeconomic families and their access to healthy food, which is a really big thing, honestly, as an international thing. I mean, we kind of have a problem with food disparity just across nations in general. Many nations are food poor. They have no access to food in general. And then when we look at the problem of healthy foods in general, many places do not support actual healthy agriculture or organic agriculture. So it's kind of interesting to see the differences, especially here in the United States, where healthy eating is kind of a luxury, perfectly honest.
It really is, and it shouldn't be like that, because it's not a luxury to be overweight or to be unhealthy, that's for sure.
I mean, while we're on the lines of just nutrient supplies, a lot of countries don't even have access to clean drinking water. I mean, how are you supposed to live and lead a happy life? I mean, nobody's talking about we have excess here, but we're just talking about the bare minimums of enough energy to supply to get through the day.
Right.
And it's crazy to think about. I just got a Domino's pizza walking down campus, and I paid $1 for it. And
$1?
Yeah.
$1 in what would normally feed an average family of 4.
Yeah.
That's insane. The average American income could potentially supply enough money to feed an entire village in some areas of Africa, and it's especially in the northern areas where there's not a lot of supply of agriculture, and where climate change is severely affecting agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
The excess production of first world countries is putting third world countries behind at a faster and faster rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so sad is the amount of food that we waste. We waste 40% of all of our food. That goes the actual food on our plate that we waste, the food in the grocery stores that get wasted, the food in the restaurants that don't get eaten. For apples, they will make apples in one country, ship them to Africa to get shined and polished, ship them back, but all throughout those process, these apples are getting bruised and beaten up, so they're throwing all these apples away. Not giving them away or anything, throwing them away. They come back over here to get put in our stores for a lot of money, but it's not even covering the amount of gas and fuel that they just wasted, and the labor and all that. And then they're still throwing stuff away.
It's funny because one of my professors said Americans particularly have an obsession with pretty fruit.
Yeah.
Fruit that you can put on the top of the shelves, and really fruit doesn't look like that.
Very
real
true.
Natural apples have lumps, they have bruises, they're not perfectly red and just beautifully colored. But us as Americans, we have an obsession with that kind of fruit, so that's how they have to grow it, and that's how they have to treat it.
I go to superstores. I've gone to superstores in London, and you can see the imperfections in apples, oranges, bananas, and you just see people just grab them and they go along on their day. Some even just going on to aesthetics in general. Americans have a very specific palette of colors that they enjoy as well. Yeah. You go to the UK and there's purples and oranges and all these kind of mixtures of muddied colors that normally would not stand out to you. I passed an entire aisle of candy, just completely passed by it because I didn't see the natural colors of bright blue, bright red, brown, green. And it's really interesting how you could just pass by entire aisles and not realize what you're looking at, because the palette is different. What you consider beauty is different. Yeah. Americans have this very specialized Barbie-esque aesthetic that they like to follow. That's very peculiar, to say the least. And so it's no surprise that we waste through food, waste through water, waste through products in general. I mean, I've seen something as ridiculous as somebody threw away a plastic straw because the tip was slightly bent when it was given to them.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And it's like, we already have a problem. Oh, hello.
You're getting farther and farther as you continue your sentence. You're like, and what is going on with that
And
world?
out of the pan.
blowing himself away.
Literally. Yeah, it's a trip. Imperfections. Our idea of perfection is what really messes up our world.
It's funny because I struggle to like compare ourselves with like past generations. I'm sure they had their oddities or whatever, but it's just easier to focus on because this is the generation we live in. And a lot of life is lived on social media. I mean, I spend half my time scrolling through my Twitter feed, and it's unhealthy the way people try to portray themselves, and the way like things just get manipulated so easily on the internet, and that like lends itself to this idea of trying to become perfect or like present yourself in such a way that is pleasing to others.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
100%. I'm actually taking a break from social media right now. I've been on in like about 2 months.
Wow.
And I went off because I was just realizing how destructive it was to my self-image, to myself, and how I was perceiving other people. And I would notice a lot of times I would just be scrolling and not even consciously like taking in the picture or liking it and just scrolling to scroll, and I'm like, what am I doing? I could be doing something in life right now instead of just like such in a virtual world. Like when we're on our phones a lot of times we're completely zoned into that technological realm, and we're just
I don't think it would be half that bad if it wasn't for the current climate right now where everybody is antagonistic towards everyone.
Yeah.
Like, we see it all the time. Like, I'm not an apologist for any of these people who are like, that are, like popular, or, they're the high elite that are like Hollywood and they get smashed for stuff, obviously. But it seems like what we're seeing is like, through their mistakes, we're getting this kind of like hate acceptance culture, is what I kind of want to call it, where it's like, it's acceptable to absolutely bash someone apart just for the sake of bashing them apart for something you don't like. For instance, the recent scandal that we saw on Twitter, the Twitter storm with the girl wearing the Chinese dress. Did you see that at all?
I'm so out of the loop now that I'm not on social media. I'm like, what?
That's probably for the best though, because that was, I mean, I get a cultural appropriation. It's bad, it's harmful, and it like misrepresents people's culture. And that girl got a lot of heat. This was a high school girl that's
what happened?
So the story is she's going to prom. She's a senior in high school. She finds this it was a beautiful dress. It was a Chinese gown. I'm not sure the name, but she found it like in a thrift shop or something, and she goes to prom with the dress on, and she has a picture of herself and her friends like doing this, and a lot of people believe that she was like bowing as like that's what apparently that's just what people associate with like Asian culture, a lot of bowing, things like that, you know what I'm saying?
Which in itself is kind of if you think about it, it's kind of, I'm struggling to find the word right now, but it's kind of like
it's a generalization.
Yeah,
to associate with the culture. This is another problem in itself.
Presumptive.
Yeah, very presumptive. And it caught fire on Twitter, like things do, and people just started bashing the heck out of this girl.
Twitter, do your thing.
Yeah, right?
Dang.
And the thing is that, the tweet that started it all was I don't remember what the guy's name was, but it was, my culture is not your prom dress.
Ooh.
But my thing is like, okay, I would get it if the person who's wearing this is like obviously doing something very racist, like where they're like doing the whole like, like stretching their eyes or doing something that's obviously harmful to that person. What they were trying to emulate wasn't something that was, culturally going against. And I find the whole cultural appropriation thing, I don't know, in my personal opinion, I kind of find it, I mean, I don't have a culture really to sting out, so mind you, it's with a grain of salt. But I kind of find the thing kind of ridiculous in certain aspects, because it's like, if we don't develop acceptance for cultures by doing things such as wearing a dress, I mean,
And
even
integrating.
integrating, like, well, then what's the point of us being together? Why did
Yeah.
like it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. Like, we always take elements from other cultures and slowly put them into our own culture. I mean, as a nation, we are a mixing pot, a melting pot of different cultures. So I guess my horse in the race is, how are we going to ever have race relations and national relations heal if we don't take things from each other and slowly integrate them to ourselves and accept them? I mean, who's going to ever know what that dress means if they never get to experience wearing that dress? And many people who are of that of Chinese descent, who are going against this person because it seemed to split the community a little bit, were like, I don't see anything wrong with this, because usually those dresses weren't, it's not like a ceremonial gown. It's kind of just like a, hey, I feel really pretty today, I'm gonna wear this dress kind of thing, which is what she was doing. She was wearing the dress right for the conditions that we're in. I don't really get the hate, other than just very reactionary culture, which kind of coincides with reactionary culture with conservatives too. You know, it's like, oh my God, how dare you do this X thing that really makes me feel weird. I'm going to now hate you for doing this thing that makes me feel weird. I don't know, it's kind of weird.
It's weird, and it's sad that we are in a culture so deeply rooted in hate. And you're right, the only way that we can really overcome that is to love one another, and for that girl, for her to wear that, I can see why people take that as an offense to that culture. But if she's honoring them, and if she's educating herself on what it means to wear that dress on and learning about that culture, then that's love right there. That's not hate, you know. And people should love on her for embodying that, and to spread herself away from the normal prom dress, the American cultured prom dress, you know. Like, props to her for being different and being diverse and spreading that. What do you think?
I think it's a weird time for like our generation and the younger generations coming up, because it's like a transitionary period from like old preconceived notions of American values and what does it mean to be an American, to a new progressive system where we're legalizing gay marriage. People have been feeling more accepted than ever before, and it's like we're transitioning to, hey, I see you as a human and I see you for who you are, and I appreciate that, and can you give the same to me? While we still have people back here like, no, that's not right, we shouldn't be doing that, and I think you're a bad person for what you believe. So like, we're constantly juggling like a whole bunch of different perceptions of what does it mean to be an American, and people get caught in the weeds all the time. It's tough.
It is tough. How do we get out of the weeds, though?
I think if we're looking at like human psychology and human development as our basis for how we're going to see the next few years going along, the thing is that when you go through a time of acceptance and new change, it's riding that wave of popularity is always going to give people a certain amount of power and prestige, because they've been denied it for so long. And it's very understandable once you're in the limelight, or if you haven't been in that limelight, to want to hold on to it as hard as you can, because you never know when you're going to lose that, when you're just going to fall back into obscurity. Politics, which is all this really is just a matter of who gets what, who's in the situation of power, who's standing above who. Very natural human hierarchical thing that we're trying to break down through this, progressive mentality of everybody's at the same playing field. But it's hard, because that's years of evolution that you're trying to crash down. And so in this time period where cultures are being accepted, but also, showing their predominance, it's very easy to isolate and antagonize people who then attempt to break the new norm, which is, we're accepting cultures now. We're accepting cultures, and cultures are in the limelight. But don't you dare cross the streams. Because if you do that, then you're a racist asshole and no one likes you.
Yeah.
And we're in that, like he said, we're in a transitionary period where it's like, okay, cultures are accepted, but how do we choose to migrate these things? And we're developing our own social rules for this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. And I think it's just going to take time, really, to figure out what those rules are and to decide as a people what's acceptable to us. What are we going to take? Is it acceptable for someone to wear a dress from another culture, yes or no? You know, it's up to us to decide, and it's gonna take time to figure out.
It's gonna take time. This is making me think about that High School Musical song. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's like, stick to what you know,
Oh,
or
the
something
Status
like
Quo
that.
song?
Status Quo. That's what it was.
Oh,
Stick to
man.
the status quo.
That's funny.
But
That is funny.
you see that the whole theme about that movie was going against the status quo in the end, and that's the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Wow, High School Musical had a good message.
High School Musical secretly a progressive leader despite having almost an all-white cast.
Right? Right? No, that's not true. They had
They had-
Vanessa Hudgens and
Okay, that's true.
They
that
had
one
Corbin
guy,
Bleu.
Corbin Blue.
Whatever
That's-
happened to that man?
Oh,
That's
Raven
a
Simone.
mystery.
Wasn't she on there?
Was she? I don't remember.
Not
No.
quite sure.
It was that one girl that was a twin in that other
Mm.
movie where there was like the melting guy, the futuristic movie.
Melting
You,
guy?
you lost me. You
I'm
lost
confused.
You guys know, but this is getting to be a long video, so I think we should end it here.
Beautiful.
But this was such an amazing topic, conversation, discussion. Thank you for being here to join us.
Of course.
Thank you for sharing all your wonderful thoughts, and thank you for blessing this video with the eyes of your view. I appreciate you. We have made it to May 9th, 2018.
We're flying.
I'm feeling beyond alive. You guys, how you feeling?
Feeling good.
Finals make me want to die, but that's all good.
But you're living though.
But I'm living.
You're
I'm
living. We're all living, and we're gonna make it through finals or whatever we've got going on today, and we're gonna make it to the next day and again and again. So, peace to you, and I hope that you meet a new friend today.
Yeah, please. Please do.
Do it.